Today, the Matt Walsh Show, as we've talked about it this week, I've done a deeper dive into the EBT program. Turns out this scam is even worse than I thought and much worse than most people realize. I'll give you the facts today. You don't want to miss this. Also, a popular liberal podcaster says that Democrat politicians need to get on board with wishing death on their opponents. An MSNBC anchor claims that no Democrat has ever compared Trump to Hitler. Of all the fake news ever reported by the fake news, this has to be the fakest. And a single childless millennial woman has a moment of realization in a video that has gone massively viral. All of that and more today on The Matt Walsh Show. With rising costs everywhere, we tend to overestimate what things actually cost, including life insurance, where 72% of Americans guess way too high. Policy Genius makes finding affordable coverage simple, so your loved ones have the financial protection they need. See if Policy Genius can help you find 20-year life insurance policies starting at just $276 a year for $1 million in coverage. Policy Genius transforms the typically overwhelming process of shopping for life insurance into a straightforward experience. Just a few clicks. You can compare quotes from top insurers to find coverage that fits your needs and your budget. Their team of licensed agents guides you through every step, handling paperwork and answering questions without any sales pressure. The platform clearly displays all your options, coverage amounts, prices, terms, eliminating confusion and guesswork. As the country's leading online insurance marketplace with thousands of five-star reviews, Policy Genius has earned trust by helping customers find policies perfectly suited to their unique situations, making this important financial decision surprisingly simple. So, father and husband, I know how important life insurance is and peace of mind that comes with it, knowing that your family will be financially protected and able to maintain their quality of life, even if you're no longer there to provide for them. Secure your family's future with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/Walsh to compare life insurance quotes from top companies and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/Walsh. I have to admit that I've genuinely become interested in seeing how Democrats plan to defend the food stamp program, which is about to run out of money because of the government shutdown. We did the whole opening segment yesterday on how taxpayers are being forced to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on subsidizing other people's groceries, which substantially raises the price of groceries for everybody. And we talked about how the massive number of people who receive these subsidies, 45 million people, or 1 in 8 Americans, clearly don't need them for the most part. According to the Wall Street Journal, and I promise I'm not making this statistic up, this is real, roughly 3/4 of adult food stamp beneficiaries are overweight or obese. 3/4 of them. 75% of these people are obese. And these are not particularly sympathetic people either. Half of them are on TikTok at the moment. BMI north of 40, smoke detector ringing off the hook, sass off the charts, and they're threatening to rob their local grocery store the moment food stamps are cut off. So if you're the Democrat Party, how do you defend any of this? How do you argue with a straight face that Americans should be forced to continue paying for other people's food stamps? Well, it took a few weeks, but we finally have our answer, straight from Tim Walz himself. And here's what Tim wrote on social media the other day. Quote, every $1 invested in SNAP generates $1.80 in economic activity. It's not about the money. Trump just wants Americans to go hungry. So that's the argument. This is the best Democrats could come up with. So let's give Tim Walz the benefit of the doubt. Let's really, really think about this for a moment. He doesn't want you to think about it. He just wants you to ingest it and move on. But let's think about it. Every $1 invested in SNAP generates $1.80 in economic activity. What does that mean exactly? How would that even be possible? How can you turn $1 into $1.80 just by taking it from one person and giving it to someone else? I'm no economics major, but so is that how it works? And if this trick actually works, then why don't we invest 100% of the U.S. budget into food stamps? We double our money overnight. Sounds like a fantastic idea. Well, the trick, of course, is that you have to parse what Tim Walz is saying. He's not saying he can turn $1 into $1.80 with the SNAP program. Instead, he's saying that every dollar in SNAP generates $1.80 in economic activity. Well, what the heck is economic activity? Well, here's one way to explain what this term means. I saw this analogy making the rounds on social media, and it describes the sleight of hand very well. I saw it posted by a guy named Lee, though I think it's been circulating around on the internet for a while. So I don't know where it originally comes from, but here's how it goes. So let's say you have two economists walking in the woods, and the first economist says to the second, "I'll pay you $100 to eat this pile of manure." And the second economist says, "Sure." And he eats the poop and he takes $100. A few minutes later, the second economist makes the same offer. He says they come across another pile of poop, and he says to the first economist, "Well, I'll give you $100 back if you eat this new pile of poop over here." And the first economist accepts, and he gets his $100 back. Well, in this scenario, of course, the economists have not created any new value. Each of them has eaten manure in exchange for nothing. They've completely wasted their time in addition to contracting E. coli. And yet, these two economists have also increased the GDP by $200. They have engaged in $200 worth of economic activity, because economic activity is simply a measure of how often money changes hands. It's not a measure of value creation. It's just that means that money has changed hands. Well, Democrats are pushing this absurd talking point about how SNAP creates economic activity because they want to confuse people about the reality of what's actually happening, which is that we are being defrauded on a massive, incomprehensible scale. And it doesn't require any kind of deep investigative reporting to realize this. You can just go on Amazon.com and look for the items that are SNAP or EBT eligible. You can go do this yourself. You can get Little Debbie oatmeal cream pies using your EBT card. You can get giant bags of M&Ms and Snickers and Twix with your EBT. You can pick up a family-size pack of Gushers. You can get double stuffed Oreos, various other cookies, Chips Ahoy. You can even get a massive $80 vat of double chocolate whey protein powder on SNAP, along with your Nespresso capsules. Grey Poupon is also on the table, of course. That goes without saying. I mean, without your Grey Poupon, you might as well starve to death. I'll never forget the story of the guy. Maybe you never heard this, but this is a real story. He was stranded in the desert, and he starved to death in agony. But the real tragedy is that he had a whole cooler of food with him the whole time, but he ran out of Dijon mustard. And what good is the food without the mustard? So, lives are really at stake here. But don't stop there. Don't stop with the mustard. You can also get a $110 California Ultimate Meat and Cheese gift crate with your SNAP benefits. And here's the product description on that one. Quote, "Send a crate fully loaded with delicious flavors for a charcuterie night experience. Summer sausage and salami complement the savory variety of cheeses, and mustard, along with the crunch of 2 types of crackers and nuts. A drizzle of vinegar and olive oil help create a variety of delicious flavor combinations. They'll finish on a sweet note with dried fruits." Now, just to put this in perspective, I would not, with my current income, ever spend $110 on a crate of meat and cheese, okay? That would be outside of my current budget. And you would think that my budget would be larger than the budget of somebody on EBT. Apparently not. Now, it doesn't need to be said, but none of this should be legal. A lot of it probably is not legal, if we're being honest. To the extent that it should exist at all, SNAP should cover the basics. And it'd be really easy to have this requirement and enforce it. It's not difficult at all, okay? This is all done electronically. You can just set it up so that the card doesn't work if you try to buy something like a meat and cheese crate for $110 or a bag of Oreos. Could easily do it. It'd be the easiest thing in the world to enforce. But we don't. The cheap staples, if we're going to have this program at all, it should be for people who really need it, and it's only for the staples. Things like rice, beans, potatoes, maybe you put some produce in there, and that's it. Each person needs something like $50 a month. And that should be it. Like, if you really need it, that will keep you alive. And if you want, now you might say, well, people want to live. That's no way to live. You want more than just what you need to live. You want to be able to treat yourself. Well, fine, great. Go ahead and do that with your own money. We'll give you enough so that you don't actually starve to death, if that's actually even a risk, which it isn't for almost all these people. But if it is, then we'll cover the absolute basic essentials. That's it. You want anything more than that? I totally understand wanting more than that. Use your own money. SNAP should not be covering bodybuilding supplements. It should not be covering candy or coffee even. That's exactly how many SNAP recipients are spending your money. Your money. Take a look at this chart from USDA. It's one of the few pieces of data we have from the government as it relates to food stamp spending. This is not the kind of thing they really want to tell us much about. But the chart shows how SNAP recipients spend their money in yellow and how normal households spend their food budget, which is in blue, as a percentage of their overall food budget. Now, there are entire categories on this chart that should not exist for SNAP recipients. There are entire categories. Most of the categories should be NA, not applicable. But for example, 9.25% of food expenditures in SNAP households go to sweetened beverages like Coke and Pepsi, compared to only 7% in normal households. Meanwhile, 6.9% of the budget in SNAP households goes to prepared desserts, compared to 6.41% in normal households. So in other words, SNAP households are spending, when measured against their total budget, more money on non-essential food purchases as compared to households that actually pay for their own groceries. Let me say that again in case you missed it. EBT recipients are spending more money on non-essential food purchases than households that pay for their own groceries. The people who are funding the food stamp program are living more modestly when it comes to groceries than the people who are on the food stamp program. This is completely inverted and upside down and insane. It is actually evil. The food stamp program is evil. And because of that, these results are exactly what we should expect. When people are spending someone else's money and they don't need it, they tend to spring for unnecessary purchases. When you give somebody a card and say, yeah, buy any food you want, basically, this is human nature. Most people are not going to say, well, I know I could buy junk food with it, but that would be unethical. And I'm not going to force my fellow citizen to pay for that. And so I'm going to stick only with the essentials and I'm going to be an honest person. That's not what most people do. That's not how most people respond. It's just not. In fact, they apparently tend to spring for purchases that are actively harmful to their health, like prepared desserts. And by the way, it's not a remotely compelling argument to say that we need to spend a lot of money on SNAP for the benefit of children. Because if anything, SNAP benefits are hurting children. Take a look at this chart, which you can see here. It shows child obesity rates in the U.S. by family income level. And what do you notice? The demographic that receives the most food stamps just so happens to have the highest child obesity rate by a significant margin. Who could have seen that come? We're not actually improving the lives of children. Instead, we're putting money into the very large pockets of women like this. Watch.
So I get $3,000 in food stamps. Obviously it's 8 of us, so you do the math. That's why I get $3,000. I have no income, so obviously I'm gonna get the full benefit amount. Does that make you mad too? Does it make you mad that the government is helping me feed my children? Does that make you want to punch me in my face? Does that make you angry? Does that make you shiver in your boots? Yeah. Be mad. Stay mad. How else am I gonna feed my kids? I don't have a job. Even though I'm going to an interview today. God, like I said, I took your advice. So it is what it is.
So she's making $3,000 a month, 36 grand a year for doing nothing. And she's mocking people for noticing how absurd this is. There are millions of people in this country who make 36 grand a year for a full-time job. They work 8 hours a day. And those people are being taxed on every paycheck. And their money is then going to obese welfare queens like this one. Now, she's obviously able to afford a smartphone, a car, so she can shoot videos complaining about how oppressed she is. And of course, she's obviously eating quite well. So, or at least If she's not eating well, she's eating a lot. She's eating high volume, if not high quality. So why exactly are we allowing people like this to collect thousands of dollars a month? I mean, why don't we have regular weigh-ins to make sure that food stamp recipients actually need food? Why don't we drug test these people and check their social media feeds to see if they're gloating about their EBT balances? We do that in bankruptcy court. If you declare bankruptcy and then you post a video where you're on a yacht or something, they're going to ask you to explain yourself. This is what happened to 50 Cent. And it should happen to every single one of these people. But it hasn't happened. And there's a very simple reason why it has not happened. Yes, many of these people vote Democrat. It's true the Democrat Party wants to buy their votes by stealing your money and handing it to them. But the food stamp program isn't simply a creation of the Democrat Party. Many Republican administrations have supported it as well. In fact, they all have to one extent or another for as long as it's existed. So there's bipartisan support for wasting your money like this. And that's because, and even now, by the way, the messaging from the Republicans about the government shutdown, they're not saying that, well, look how wasteful EBT is. Instead, they're saying, oh, no, EBT is running out. It's the Democrats' fault. They're trying to take food out of your mouth. That's what Republicans are saying. So very few Republicans are actually being honest about the food stamp program, even though they all know, every politician in America, every single one, right and left, they all know that everything I'm saying is correct. They know the whole thing's a total scam. It's completely insane. It's gotten way out of hand. They all know that. But very few of them will point it out. And why is that? Well, one, they're afraid of offending this constituency. But the other one is that some of the biggest business interests in this country, as well as several foreign governments, are essentially dependent on the food stamp program too. Something like 25% of all food stamp spending, talking about billions of dollars every month, goes to Walmart. Obviously, Amazon takes a large chunk too, which is why they have SNAP-eligible items on all their all over their website. As I mentioned earlier, roughly 10% of food stamp spending goes to sweetened beverages like Coke, which has launched a very aggressive lobbying campaign to keep this money. You might remember that last year, big soda companies were linked to a campaign to pay conservative influencers on X in exchange for posts that said soda purchases should remain SNAP eligible. So in other words, SNAP isn't just a form of welfare that's mainly intended for Democrat voters. It's that, but it's also a form of corporate welfare. If you pay taxes, you're contributing to the profits of Walmart, Amazon, and Coke, whether you want to or not. You're also contributing to the GDP of several foreign nations through remittances. Watch.
42 million people in this country that need food stamps on a weekly basis. And we're saying people deliberately instead of Americans, because most of the people that are on food stamps aren't even from this country. 45% of Afghanistan immigrants are on food stamps, 42% of Somali immigrants, 34% of every immigrant from Iraq, 23% of Haitians, 59% of all illegal aliens are collecting food stamps, meaning that most of the people getting food stamps from the U.S. government and the U.S. taxpayer are not even Americans. Think about that. And we didn't know about any of this before the government shutdown started, but thanks to Democrats, we can confirm tonight that millions of Joe Biden illegal aliens, people who crossed the border when Joe was president, are now collecting food stamps from a program funded by hardworking American taxpayers.
So well over half of illegal aliens are receiving food stamps, as well as cash for low-income households. As we just established, they don't really need this money. And even if they did, they still shouldn't receive it because they don't belong in the country. But regardless, if they don't need the money, what are they doing with it? Well, they're buying food to ship back home, either to family members or to sell in the black market. This is from the New York Post. Quote, food stamp fraud in New York has turned into foreign aid to black market profiteers in the Dominican Republic. Last week, the Post found two people hawking barrels of American products for a profit on the streets of Santiago. It's a really easy way to make money, and it doesn't cost me anything, a seller named Maria Teresa said Friday. The 47-year-old Bronx native told the Post she scalps barrels of Frosted Flakes and baby formula bought with welfare money in the U.S. She even takes her customers' requests for hot ticket items. Her bestsellers include a 19-ounce box of Frosted Flakes, which goes for $6.50 at Dominican supermarkets. She sells it for $2 less after her sister buys it on sale for $2.99. But because the sister uses her EBT card, she actually pays nothing. Taxpayers foot the bill for the $2.99. So they run this scam with other items also. This is a wide range, including baby formula, Kellogg's Corn Flakes. But it actually gets worse as you continue reading, if you can believe it. The food stamp fraud, reading now again, quote, the food stamp fraud doesn't stop there. The woman said her sister has Bronx grocery stores ring up bogus $250 transactions with her EBT card. In exchange, the store hands her $200 cash and pockets the rest. No goods are exchanged. Instead, Maria Teresa's sister sends the money to Santiago when she's not spending it on liquor or other non-food items. We do it all the time, and a lot of people do this. Maria Teresa said, it's a way of laundering money, but it's easier because it's free. Now, as anyone who works in a grocery store, and, if you ask anyone who works in a grocery store, you'll hear dozens of stories like this. I saw a post from somebody in Hawaii who says that on the first day of the month, EBT recipients buy caseloads of Spam, and then they sell the Spam to street vendors at a 50% discount, and they use the proceeds for drugs and alcohol. So if you're an actual customer and you're looking for Spam on the shelves, you're out of luck because you've paid for criminals to clear out the shelves and buy drugs with it. Now, a system this easy to defraud, which was designed to be defrauded, should be scaled back drastically, not expanded. I mean, really, it should just be abolished. But at a minimum, it should be scaled back. But the Biden administration did not scale back. They did expand it. In fact, as you can see, food stamp spending has doubled since 2019. And this is not just COVID related, by the way. The numbers have remained high long after the lockdowns ended. And that's because in this same period, the Biden administration imported millions of illegal aliens. And it simply does not matter that technically these people shouldn't receive food stamps under the law. They're not even supposed to be inside the country under the law, yet they are. And once they get here, states like California give them food stamps. The feds give them food stamps. And their anchor babies get food stamps too. They even get a nice little EBT card so they don't seem remotely conspicuous or shameful as they defraud the American taxpayer. Coke wins, Walmart wins, Democrats win, illegal aliens win, foreign countries win, but you lose. You are taxed more and your groceries become more expensive. You lose, your children lose, your family loses because they also have no choice. The ongoing government shutdown has finally drawn attention to the scale of this fraud, and it is astronomical. It has exposed a vast network of criminal activity that needs to be shut down. Just for starters, as the attorney Mike Davis has pointed out, it's illegal under federal law to provide financial assistance to illegal aliens. It's also illegal to rob stores and then brag about it on TikTok. At a minimum, we could start there. Arrest these criminals, prosecute the state officials who are paying out benefits to illegal aliens, who, by the way, typically receive Medicaid funding as well, and then also other welfare benefits. And then once we're done with that, we need drug testing and weight testing for anyone receiving SNAP. We need a system that does not subsidize the grocery bills of 45 million people for the indefinite future with no time limit or restriction. And beyond that point, if the food stamp program is going to continue to exist at all, which I'm not convinced it should, it needs to have standards, strict standards. It needs to have a reason to exist. Someone needs to be able to explain in a coherent fashion why the spending is necessary. Democrats have had several days to give us an explanation, and they've failed to do it. In fact, they've essentially admitted it's a shell game, and it's rife with fraud. They've admitted that they're just redistributing money or creating economic activity, as Tim Walsh put it. And for the benefit of every taxpayer and the millions of obese, profoundly ungrateful people they're feeding, we should end this particular economic activity. And in its place, we should encourage food stamp recipients to engage in some actual activity, like, getting a job or going for a walk around the block. Hold them to some standards. That'll be a big adjustment, no doubt, but one TikTok video and Tim Walsh tweet at a time, Democrats, of all people, are making a very compelling case that it's a change we need to make. Let's get to our 5 headlines. Well, there's no way around it. When it comes to health care, people are really frustrated with how much it costs and how to pay for it also. The usual ways that we've been doing this have only gotten more expensive, more complicated, and frankly, really aggravating. That's why MediShare is such a welcome relief. It's called healthcare sharing. It's different and it works. More than 1 million Americans are now doing this, and MediShare has been a great option for more than 30 years. So really, you could save thousands of dollars a year on your healthcare and be happy. Imagine that. Now, if you've heard about it and you want to know more, there are two easy options. Go to metashare.com/Matt. That's metashare.com/Matt. Or just grab your phone and send a text. You get the info, which could really help you and your family out. All the information you need. But you got to text the word Matt to 70246 to get the facts. Text Matt to 70246 and you'll get the link. That's Matt to 70246. What if you could delay your next 2 mortgage payments? That's right. Imagine putting those 2 payments in your pocket, finally getting a little breathing room ahead of the holidays. It's possible when you call American Financing today. If you're feeling stretched by everyday expenses, groceries, gas, bills, all that piling up, well, you're not alone. Most Americans are putting these expenses on credit cards. The credit card rates are insane, in the 20s or even 30s. American Financing can show you how to use your home's equity to pay off that debt with rates in the low 5s. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are helping homeowners just like you restructure their loans and save money every month, all without upfront fees. Their customers are saving an average of $800 a month. That's like a $10,000 raise without having to change jobs. Call now before it's too late. American Financing, 866-569-4711. That's 866-569-4711, or visit americanfinancing.net/Walsh. All right, Jennifer Welch is a left-wing podcaster. She's been popping up on my feed more and more, which is unfortunate because she's very difficult to look at. She has a face that only a mother could love, although I suspect her mother did not love it, which is how she ended up the way that she did. And here she is reacting to a clip of a leftist protester. It's a clip of another leftist, a protester, saying that she, the protester, is glad that Charlie Kirk is dead, and she wants more conservatives to also die. And Jennifer Welch, who again is a somehow popular left-wing podcaster, is really thrilled by this. So let's watch.
Finally, if you think the Zoran thing is happening just in New York, and you think people are waking up only in New York City, you're mistaken. Look at this clip of a wine mom at the No Kings March. Play the clip.
Whatever his name was?
Charlie Kirk, ma'am?
Yeah, him is horrible. Horrible.
Charlie Kirk is horrible?
Yes, I'm glad he's not here.
You're glad he's dead?
Yes.
Why would you say something like that, ma'am?
Because he was horrible on the campuses, the college campuses. Horrible person.
You know what? I do the exact same thing.
Well,
would you
so
be
sorry.
glad if I would die?
Maybe. I'd have to think about it.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Be ashamed of yourself.
Your friend just said she'd be happy if I died.
I think we need to...
So listen up, Democratic establishment. You can either jump on board with this, or we're coming after you in the same way that we come after MAGA.
Well, she's pretty angry. At least I think she is. I mean, her entire face is made of plastic, so I can't really be sure. Her face is just paralyzed from Botox, like some kind of stroke victim. And her face is it's a cartoonish face. It's a face. It looks like it looks like her face was erased and then redrawn by a child. So she truly is just a hideous beast. And I don't feel bad saying that because I believe her hideousness is a reflection of her soul. I mean, it's also a reflection of the botulism she's injecting into her head every day. But it is itself a reflection. But the fact that she's injecting the botulism is also a reflection of the evil in her soul. So this is an evil, terrible person, and it seeps out of her pores. And she's explicitly saying here that Democrat Party needs to get on board with wishing death on conservatives, which, of course, I think if you're in the Democrat Party and you hear that, you're going, well, what do you mean? Haven't we already made it clear we're on board with that? What are you talking about? But she wants them even more on board. Keep in mind, this woman is not some kind of fringe figure. She's a mainstream liberal podcaster. She is what counts as normal on that side. She may not look like it. She may look like Count Chocula's fraternal twin sister, but she's still, this is a normal person over there. And the other woman in that clip, the wine mom, is also what counts as normal. Which is why I've been saying these people truly want us dead. They really do. In the mainstream, they want us dead, and that is clear. I had one other thought about this Jennifer Welch creature as I was watching that. it occurred to me as I was watching the clip that truly everything I do as a father of daughters, as a father of a 12-year-old girl and a 6-year-old girl, everything I do is specifically intended to ensure that my girls do not turn into a woman like that. She is the picture, she is the symbol of everything I don't want my girls to be. I look at that, everything about her, and I say, yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly the opposite of it. It's like, take that, and I want my daughters to become that, but the opposite in every single way. If I could look into the future and see that my precious daughter had become Jennifer Welch, I would die from heartbreak. I truly would. I think I would just die. I don't think I'd be able to live with that. For me, that's a fate worse than death. I would rather be dead than have my daughters end up like that. I looked this woman up, and the first thing I see in her bio, the least surprising news of all time, is that in her bio, it says that she is happily divorced. Isn't that a shock? Never saw that one coming. Which, of course, we already knew that. Not only did you know that she was divorced, but you knew that she'd be the kind of person who would describe herself as happily divorced. She's the kind of person who would describe the dissolution of her marriage, the destruction of her family, as a happy thing. And sadly, this monster also has 2 sons. So, she's not childless. She has 2 sons. You can only imagine how awful she is to them, what agony it must be to have this person as your mother, how much they must loathe her. And it's hard to even imagine. And so the whole picture, the whole thing is just everything. It's everything wrong. Everything that can kind of go wrong with a woman is found right there. Divorced, selfish, ugly, inside and out, ruined, face ruined from plastic surgery, crass, nasty, mean, just like unpleasant, everything you don't want your daughter to turn into. So that's the lesson there. I think that's the lesson we can all take away from it. Here's a video that I think Libs of TikTok put together. I believe I found it on that's where I found it, was on her X page. So JB Pritzker went on Nicole Wallace's podcast and denied having ever called Trump Hitler. And then Wallace says that, no Democrat has ever done that. And Libs of TikTok put together this little video sort of fact-checking that claim. Here it is.
I haven't suggested that Donald Trump is Hitler. I wouldn't say
I don't
that.
think any Democrat has. I actually...
It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews.
How can you possibly compare what happened in Germany in World War II to what's going on here in the United States?
Well, we're talking about the death of a constitutional republic. That's what happened in Germany in 1933, 1934. And we're seeing today that you've got an administration in Washington that's ignoring court orders.
And this rogue Department of Justice going out to do the bidding of this Timu Hitler.
I don't even know what to call him. I've called him so many things, but this wannabe Hitler for sure.
Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939 that neo-Nazis.
So anyway, this could go on for 37 hours, of course. It could go on and on. Although in a way, watching that clip back, I guess he was technically correct in J.B. Pritzker, his original claim was actually true, because he said, well, I've never suggested that Trump is Hitler. And then Nicole Wallace said, well, no Democrat has. And that's correct in that, yeah, they haven't suggested it. They just outright said it. So maybe that's how you would parse that. Yeah, there's no suggestion, there's no insinuation. They're just outright saying that Trump is Hitler. And Democrats have been calling Trump and all their political opponents Hitler for a long time, obviously, which is maybe the single worst political miscalculation in modern political history, in this country anyway. Forget about the fact that it's a lie, that it's false, obviously. Obviously, it's false. Trump is not Hitler. But just on a pure political level, it was a catastrophically stupid mistake. And they keep making it because they don't know what else to do. They just keep forging ahead. And now they have nowhere else to go. I mean, they've thrown the worst possible accusation they could fabricate at their opponents. They went all the way to the most extreme denunciations. It didn't land and nobody cared. We're numb to it. It doesn't mean anything anymore. And now what? Right? That's the problem. When you go all the way there and you come out and say, you know what? He's Hitler. Well, okay. When you go for the most extreme denunciation, where there's nowhere else to go. After that one's been used up, there's nowhere else to go. That's the situation the left is in. It was a very bad strategy. Although it really wasn't a strategy at all. I mean, this is what people don't fully appreciate. When Democrats go around calling everybody they hate Hitler, it's not really a political tactic. It's sort of that. It's not fully that. I think it's more a product of their limited vocabulary and their lack of imagination and their historical illiteracy, which is not to make an excuse for them. I'm just saying it's impossible to overstate just how dumb and witless and clueless these people are. They don't read books. They don't think. They don't engage in any level of reflection about anything ever. And so they go around shouting Hitler because he's one of the 3 historical figures that they know about. Right? They know of 3 historical figures, and he's one of them. The historical figures they can name would be like Hitler, Martin Luther King Jr., and Abraham Lincoln. Those are the only 3 they know. Right? And on the left, that's the case, but really it's also a function of the failed school system. So that's one of the reasons why they compare everyone to Hitler, because they're thinking okay, well, only 3 people have existed in history before this moment: Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., and Hitler. And they're thinking, well, we can't compare them to the other 2. So this is the only one left. And so that's why they do it. They have a vocabulary range not much more extensive than that of the average 3rd grader. And they have historical knowledge that is less than a 3rd grader who's been well educated anyway. Historical knowledge less than a homeschooled 3rd grader. And so this is what they're left with. It's kind of like there's that old Louis C.K. bit where he talks about the word hilarious. I think it's from his special. It was also called Hilarious. And how people use the word hilarious to describe things that are at best mildly amusing. Something mildly amusing happens and people say, oh, it's hilarious. And the problem is that, okay, well, what do you do when something actually hilarious happens? You just used hilarious on something that barely elicits a smirk. And now this really hilarious thing is happening. And what are you going to call it? Well, you're also going to call it hilarious. So you've cheapened the hilarious event by using that word to describe anything that's remotely funny at all. That was that was not a funny way at all of me doing the bit, but that was the point he was making. So Democrats have a kind of political version of this problem. They have a political version of it, and there's nowhere else to go, especially with Trump. I mean, they've said everything they possibly can about him. They've the worst accusations. They've tried to arrest him. Obviously, they've tried to put him in jail. They've tried to kill him, and there's nothing left to be said. And that's why they're totally ineffectual at this point in opposing him. All right, let's get to the daily cancellation. We're living in a time when lies are easy and truth is costly, and nowhere is that more devastating than in the battle for life. It's exactly what Natalia faced. When she first learned of her pregnancy, Natalia considered abortion, and she was influenced, of course, by messaging she'd been exposed to all the time in the culture. But Everything changed when she heard her baby's heartbeat. And in that moment, she felt a divine calling to continue her pregnancy, trusting that God would make a way forward. Natalia chose life, found herself surrounded by the love, support, and resources she needed. At Preborn Network Clinics, this happens on average 200 times a day because of the support from people like you. Moms who are overwhelmed and pressured suddenly see their child, hear the truth, and realize they're not alone. That moment of truth costs just $28. And to sponsor an ultrasound doubles a baby's chance at life. This is not a time for silence. It is a time for courage, a time for truth, a time for life. Give now, dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, baby, or visit preborn.com/Walsh. That's preborn.com/Walsh. Tonight, Friendly Fire returns for episode 2. Join me, Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, Andrew Klavan, and a special appearance from our newest Daily Wire host live at 7 p.m. Eastern on Daily Wire Plus. Love to tell you exactly what's going to happen, but here's the truth. There's no script, no moderator, absolutely no plan. It's four of the most trusted voices in conservative media debating, discussing, and disagreeing while the entire internet watches and comments in real time. Watch Friendly Fire tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Daily Wire Plus, along with literally the entire internet, the whole thing it's going to be watching. If you're not a member yet, join for as little as $7 a month with our deal of the decade at dailywire.com/subscribe. Remember to watch Friendly Fire live tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on Daily Wire Plus. Now let's get to our daily cancellation. You know, on this show through the years, we've played and discussed many videos of single millennial women on TikTok talking about their experience of being single and millennial. And the one thing these videos almost always lack, which is what makes them sad and sometimes also funny, is any semblance of self-awareness or wisdom. Well, today we have another in this genre, except this does have a healthy portion of the ingredients that the others lack. This is a woman named Layla, who's gone very viral. This is all over TikTok. This had like 500,000 likes or something, so it's millions and millions of views. And so she's gone viral with her honest and, at least to a point, I think, insightful reflection on her experience as a woman in her 30s with no husband and no children. Here it is, watch.
I just realized that I'm not anybody's priority in life. I mean, I've known this, but it just kind of really hit me today. Like, wow, there's no one that prioritizes me in their life. And I feel like I prioritize a lot of people, but that is just like the nature of being a single girl with friends or a single adult with friends, is that I prioritize my friendships because I have to. Because I don't have anybody else, right? But like realizing that I'm not anybody's priority is just like such a freaking bummer, such a bummer. And it hurts and it kind of feels like really bad. Like, did I make every wrong choice in life ever to end up in this place where like I'm no one's priority? But then like on the flip side of that is like I have to be my priority. And I just have to like live in that more. Like I'm my priority. I am.
So things take a turn towards the end there, as we'll discuss. But she's touching on something true, and for someone in her position, quite painful, which is why it's certainly not my intention to make fun of her, deliver any lecture or anything like that. I just want to talk about the point that she's making. And also try to explain why the solution that she offers, the answer to the riddle, doesn't work, unfortunately. But Layla is correct. If you're single and childless as an adult, there probably not anyone in your life who considers you their top priority. Now, you may have people who love you, hopefully. You have friends, you have family members, but you aren't going to be anyone's most important person. Okay, you're not the first or last thought in anybody's head as they go to bed at night or get out of bed in the morning. That's a brutal reality, and it's one that women in Layla's position, at least the ones who post TikTok videos, often don't have the courage to face. And I give her credit for being honest with herself about it. This is one of the reasons why I have always so aggressively opposed the lie that life is easier and happier if you forego marriage and children. The culture has been pushing this falsehood for generations now. As we know, millions of people have found themselves, have listened to it, and they've found themselves desperately lonely and in a state of near total despair because they allowed themselves to be ushered down a path that they were told would lead to happiness and fulfillment. And instead, they end up in exactly the opposite place. They end up with the realization that although they've freed themselves from the responsibility of being a spouse and a parent, they've also deprived themselves of the love that they might have otherwise found. They're free, but they don't have love. And giving someone freedom by depriving them of love is it's like giving them freedom by depriving them of food. It's not freedom at all, except the freedom to die. And in the case of food, you will physically die without it. In the case of love, you'll die in every other sense that matters. And this is not to say that you can't be loved or experience love if you're single. It's to say that to choose that lifestyle is to choose lesser things over the greater thing, which is love. And when somebody like Layla talks about this feeling of emptiness, this feeling of lacking, well, this is what she's talking about. Love is the thing that she's missing. Maybe not missing completely in her life, but missing in a significant and meaningful way. But it's not just about being prioritized by somebody else. The greater problem is that without a family, there is no one for you to prioritize. There's no one for you to pour yourself into. No one for you to serve and give to and sacrifice for. There's no one who not think, not hope, but you would take a bullet for, you would lay down your life for, because it's the kind of love and devotion you have for that person. And that is why Layla's solution doesn't work. She says that, well, she needs to work on prioritizing herself. In an article for Newsweek, she expounded saying, quote, "In many ways, this realization feels freeing," Layla told Newsweek, "but it was also quite demoralizing. Most people would say their partner or children come first," Layla said. "I have wonderful friends and family who value and appreciate me, but I don't think I'm anyone's first call or first thought. Just part of this phase of life. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. No one depends on me in choosing myself. Doesn't mean letting anyone down. But there are moments when I wish I'd had someone to share certain experiences with." Realizing that she's no one's priority and going viral as a result has encouraged Layla to start a self-prioritization challenge. She hopes to be more intentional about showing up for herself and to feel fulfilled through her own merit. So this is a solution that most people in Layla's position land on. It's a solution suggested by the culture, which is that if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling unfulfilled, if you're feeling like maybe you should pursue a traditional family life, well, fear not. You could just prioritize yourself and start a self-prioritization challenge and be more intentional about showing up for yourself, whatever that means. Well, the problem with this approach, again, is that it simply doesn't work, which is why people who are in Layla's position, tend to have to spend a lot of time convincing themselves that it will work and that it does work. This is where a lot of the self-help stuff comes from. Just repeating these mantras to yourself about how happy you are, to convince yourself, to try to conjure it into being. But it doesn't work because you're feeling a hole inside yourself, inside your soul. You cannot fill the hole inside yourself with yourself. You cannot fill the desire for companionship by staring at your reflection in the mirror. The self-help book tells you that you're enough. You're enough. But you aren't enough. You're not even close to enough. No one is. You are not enough in and of yourself to live a fulfilling and meaningful and happy life. Such a life requires other people. You can't do it alone. It's impossible. You cannot live for yourself and be happy. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be happy living for yourself. I'm saying that we don't even need to talk about should or shouldn't. It doesn't matter. I'm saying you can't. You cannot be happy that way. It is not possible. It is a contradiction in terms. Look at it this way. What if you lived in a big, majestic, old house with 8 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, beautiful wood floors, all nice crown molding and all the little details? Could you be happy in such a home? Could you fully appreciate it if you live there alone? Well, the answer is no. Now, you can recognize the beauty of the home. You can enjoy spending some time in it. You may even enjoy living in it for a short period, but you can't find happiness in this home. You certainly cannot find all of the happiness that would otherwise be available to you if you're living there alone. Because what is a big house with 8 bedrooms for? What is its purpose? Its purpose is to be lived in. Its purpose is to be a home for a family. All of those rooms are not meant to go empty. They're not meant to just be there for decoration. They were built to be occupied, to be lived in. That's what the house is for. And you cannot be happy with a thing, at least not fully happy, not as happy as you could be, unless you know what it's for and you use it accordingly. And by the way, this is also one of the reasons why, because I know people will say, well, why can't you enjoy something by yourself? Well, you can enjoy it up to a point by yourself, sure. But, and as an introvert myself, I enjoy alone time. I enjoy that kind of thing. But you can't be fully happy. And it also tells you something that even when people say, well, I can enjoy this alone, I can be happy alone. What does it tell you? That what do those people do all the time? Right? They're constantly posting on social media. They're constantly taking pictures of things and posting them online. I mean, what if somebody was alone in that big house? What would they actually do to try to enjoy it? They would take pictures of it and they'd post it online. And why do people do that? It's because we all have this recognition that in order to be really happy, it has to be shared. We can't really be happy with this thing, with anything, unless we share it. We have this need to share it with somebody else. And if you have no one in your life to share it with, then you settle on, well, I'll just share it with anybody on the internet. I got to share it with somebody. And that's a poor substitute. But it all goes back to this question of what is a thing for? And so you have to ask yourself, what are you for? What is your purpose? That's really the existential question that Layla is asking herself. And it's a good question to ask, and we should all ask ourselves that. What are you for? Like, if I'm not happy in my life at all, then the first question I should ask myself is, what am I for? I don't mean what do I stand for? What do I believe? That's a downstream question. You got to get to that. But before you can answer that, you have to know what am I for? Like, what am I here for? What's the purpose of me? And the answer is that, first of all, our purpose is to love and serve God. And serving God means fulfilling our vocation. And none of us are called to live only for ourselves. That is not anyone's vocation. And again, it is simply not possible for anyone to be happy that way, which is why no one ever has been. Most of us are called to start families. All of us are called to a paternal or maternal vocation. For most of us, that calling will be fulfilled through motherhood or fatherhood. A small minority might become fathers or mothers in a different way, in a spiritual way, in a spiritual sense, through a different kind of life of service, the religious life, mission work, or something similar. But nobody is called to prioritize themselves and just live that way until they die. That is not what you are for. That is not the point of your existence. Which is good, because what a pointless point that would be. Now, the good news for Layla and anybody else in her boat is that there is still time to go and live your true purpose. It is maybe late in the game. It's certainly not too late. So put aside all the self-actualization mumbo jumbo and go do what you're made to do, what you are for. Or else, if not, then you will be, in that case, and only in that case, today, canceled. I'll do it for the show today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Godspeed.
Don't just get the news. Understand what the news means on The Michael Knowles Show. I will take you beneath the surface of daily political events to see their historical, philosophical, even religious roots. Catch it Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on the Daily Wire.